Boys, let's kindle this fire, keep the energy big, and let's bring it today, boys. Come on.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back. I'm Neil.
I'm Pat.
I'm Michael.
And this is the 4-on-1. We're covering everything in the football world, boys. How are we doing? How are we doing this
Oh,
week?
my God. It's violent at this point.
I'm doing so good, Neil. I'm so excited. We're talking this big draft. We already covered round 1, but I'm really excited to get into it. A lot of sleepers this draft. A lot of exciting stuff happened.
Also,
a
lot of weird picks.
we're gonna get into it.
Yeah.
And a lot of weird picks. A lot of people who I'm surprised that went undrafted. We got a lot to talk about. Mike, how are you, man?
I don't say it a whole lot, but I've got the energy.
The energy today,
I can
boys.
tell you that much.
I love it.
Most of the time, I don't have to say it, but this week, I've got the energy.
He's
I sound
ready.
like a broken record, but I'm pumped for this podcast. So let's just get into it.
We are covering rounds 2 through 7. Just our initial reactions, biggest teams that really pulled a lot out of from this draft, and teams that just didn't take advantage of the draft picks that they did have. Who wants to jump in first?
Mike.
I'll start off. Sure.
Take
Mike,
it away, Mike.
thoughts on
All right, I do want to
draft.
throw out a few players that I'm watching the draft mostly Saturday because that's when they had the most picks, and I'm thinking to myself, there are a lot of quarterbacks that are dropping, right? I mean, there are guys like Jacob Eason, Jake Fromm, Jalen Hurts. Hurts got picked early, but Fromm and Eason were falling a lot, and you would have thought they would have been picked earlier. Jake Fromm fell to the 5th round. And we're going to talk about it on Saturday, what we think the Patriots, why they didn't pick them. But I do want to start off with my winner, who is the Cincinnati Bengals. I think the Bengals won this draft, okay? I'm not saying that they're going to be a playoff team.
Isn't that interesting, Michael? Because you said that Joseph Burrow was going to be a bust.
Not just Joe, because they had a lot of...
Okay, sure. But now you're saying now the tide is turned, Michael?
I said
the tide often turns.
I didn't like the system that Burrow was going into. And then rounds 2 through 7 happened. And I looked at some of the free agents they had. I took a deeper look at it.
It's more analysis.
I know I said I think he's going to flop in Cincy. But after watching the draft, I feel a little bit different. Okay, so the Bengals are making it clear that they're getting weapons for Burrow, right? That's as clear as day.
Yeah,
so
sure.
They were bottom 10. They were a bottom 10 offense last year. Obviously not trying to do that again, right? So they made it their number one priority to buff it up. And I think that became evident by obviously picking Burrow and by in the second round, first pick, taking T. Higgins.
Yeah,
they also, in free agency, franchise tagged A.J. Green, whether that's probably going to only end up for 1 year. I don't see him returning again.
A.J. Green is, 32?
I know.
He's old.
And
that's why I thought, that's why I thought Higgins was such a good pick.
I know. I just think the injuries. But I was sitting down at my desk. I'm thinking to myself, the Bengals have a formula right now. They're following a formula they're doing. They said to themselves, you know what? In free agency, we're going to try to get a lot of defensive pieces. And they did. They got guys like DJ Reader and Alexander, who's a cornerback. They got a lot of defensive pieces.
I'm still not sold on Burrow. His style of play, it's so backyard football, dude.
I'm just saying, given the Bengals pick, which was number 1, and given who they should have picked, I don't see them picking Chase Young. And I'm thinking Burrow's the best one there. It was, in my opinion, it's the pick they had to make. Not that they should have made. It's the pick they had to make.
Backyard football doesn't fly in the NFL. It never has.
He played for LSU and won the championship. It's not backyard football, Pat.
Well, do you see what I'm saying? I'm saying the style of play is very backyard football.
Not really, dude.
It's a little rinky-dink. It's a little honky-tonk.
Who, LSU? Okay? LSU or Cincinnati?
No, LSU. Just his play in general. Honky tonk, it's a little out there. It's a little radical. Okay. It's not what the NFL usually considers to be like a good thing for a player.
Well, not all colleges are set up to make get players to really succeed in the NFL. But I think LSU is one of
Oregon, for example.
LSU had 10 or 15 players go in the first round, the first few rounds alone.
It's not LSU for me. It's Joe Burrow's style of play. Also, I think failure is going to hit him like a ton of bricks. He's going to lose more games in the first month as a Bengal than he ever has in his entire college career.
That might happen. My only
LSU
point.
Definitely they had the most. I think it was either 14 or 15, and then I think Bama was second with 9 or 10. I remember. I just remember seeing LSU at like
LSU had a lot of picks, which is
third.
I'm not saying Burrow is going to be a surefire prospect. I've never said that, and I'll stick to that. I'm just saying if I were to pick a winner for the draft, I think it'd be the Bengals. Because look, in the second round, they got T. Higgins. They went back-to-back linebackers in 3 and 4, who a lot of people are thinking are steals at that take. They ranked bottom 10 in defense too, so it just makes sense to me. And just I want to put it out there, their first pick last year in the first round, which is the 11th overall pick, was an offensive lineman. He got injured and didn't play the entire year. So now you're getting him back to really buff up that offensive line. I think they killed the draft. They got a lot of skilled guys. They got a lot of guys who will plug up some missing holes in their offense and defense. And I think it's the first right step in the rebuilding process for the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm not saying this team's going to be like even 8-8. I would think 4-12, 5-11. I don't see this team going crazy. I'm just saying, given where they are,
but improvement.
Thoughts about and look, this team is rebuilding. They're they're majorly in rebuild mode, and they think Burrow's the answer. I don't personally think he does. But thoughts about Khalid Kareem, defensive end out of Notre Dame. It was their 5th round pick 147.
I don't know a whole lot about the guy. I saw that it was a really solid pick, and some analysts were saying it's a really solid pick value wise in the 5th round to take, but I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I also don't know a ton about the guy. I just think, that's one of the many pieces on that team that needed rebuilding. I think them obviously taking Burrow is super important.
That whole defense was hurting.
I kind of want to delve into something else. So I know we've talked about this before, Pat, you hop into your winner of the draft. This is, I think, hands down to something I noticed, the best wide receiver class we've seen in years. We've talked about it before. We knew the biggest names in the first round, Henry Ruggs, CeeDee Lamb, how talented those top few receivers were. But then going into the first 3, even 4 rounds, we were really able to see the depth of talented wide receivers this class has. Second round,
we won't really see until week 5.
But this class had depth in receivers.
But it did.
And Michael, you brought up earlier T. Higgins. I'm just thinking, Chase Claypool, Denzel Mims, Oregon or Baylor?
Baylor.
Yep.
I think Baylor.
They got in the 3rd and 4th rounds, Antonio Gibson out of Memphis, Devin Duvernay out of Texas, just name a couple. But I think we can see kind of an uptick in not only the skilled receivers, because we've obviously seen those, but also an indication of I think where the NFL is heading. So we've seen an uptick in running quarterbacks, obviously, but also designs of offenses being more pass heavy, because that's getting a little bit more common. There were also kind of weird. There were surprising 5 safeties taken in the 2nd round, which was kind of strange. But I really love.
Why is that strange?
Yeah, why is that strange?
I don't really know. It just was strange to see that one position go so many times.
Xavier McKinney fell super far.
But there were 10 offensive linemen taken in the first round.
They took him at also it's really strong. I talked about last spot, really strong tackle and lineman class. I love the Giants pick of McKinney at 36 though. Definitely what they need to get that defense back and going. But Pat, I want to hop into your winner. Go for it.
Okay, so my winner of the draft is going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I know Patriots fans don't want to hear it. I know. And we've talked about Wirfs. I'm not going to get into Wirfs. I think it was a fantastic selection for them. They need offensive line to protect an obviously aging Brady. It was a smart move. I think the trade with Niners was unnecessary, but ultimately I liked the pick. I want to talk a little about Antoine Winfield out of Minnesota.
Yeah.
Okay? The Bucs have a terrible secondary. They're ranked bottom in the NFL. Carlton Davis has taken most of the heavy lifting there. Winfield was the Big Ten DB of the year, and he set a record at Minnesota with 7 interceptions in one season. He's going to be a nice addition to the defense. But one of the most important additions in total for this entire team in this draft is got to be Keyshawn Vaughn. He's a running back out of Vanderbilt, okay? This gives the Bucs such a new – the best way I describe it is almost like a new volume. It gives 2 things. It gives, of course, a new running threat for Tom just because you can't pass it every play because they have so many passing weapons. And B, it's someone that they can check down to. He's been noted as very good at passing and catching. He's a mobile receiver. He can do little check down plays. And when teams are going to be game planning for an old Brady to be getting pressure on him immediately, it's going to be nice to have a little check down player.
It's also really important to have one because the running back core right now, as I know, Peyton Barber left. So they have Ronald Jones, and he isn't the biggest receiving threat in the entire world. And you got to get a guy who can pass catch. There were guys in the draft that I would take above Keyshawn Vaughn to catch the ball. I mean, a guy like J.K. Dobbins, who had like 2,000 yards last year,
exactly,
is a good receiving threat.
And like these guys' numbers don't lie. 2 1,000-yard seasons. He averages for 7.9 yards per carry. I'm excited about this addition. And dude, just like all around, they have made so many key. We talked about Worth. We talked about Winfield. We talked about Vaughn. They got a receiver, Tyler Johnson, once again out of Minnesota.
Hold on, Pat. Sorry to interrupt. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. What did Brady have in New England? James White.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think they're trying to draft James White 2.0 in Tampa Bay, a pass-catching running back?
That's the type vibe that I'm getting. And he utilized White a ton when he had nobody else to go to.
First round, takes an offensive tackle. I said it a few podcasts ago. They're appealing to Brady. I think they're doing that this draft too. I think you're right.
So they got Raymond Calais in the 7th round out of Louisiana, right? It's another running back, dude. So it's pretty much, to be honest, in my opinion, it's almost kind of like a backup plan for Vaughn. So like if Vaughn doesn't work out, they have another young guy that they can maybe figure out. They want to get this. They want to get Brady all the tools that he needs to be successful. You know what I mean? And look, they got the defensive tackle. They got the linebacker in the 6th and 7th round in Khalil Davis and Chappelle Russell. So I think that with all these additions, they focus mainly on the offense. They put in a few defensive pieces.
Yeah, but 6th and 7th round, you can't prioritize those guys as being huge.
But this obviously, and we all know this Buccaneers team is going to be a predominantly offensive team. And with Brady, with the right pieces, I think they're going to be super successful this season.
Just to interrupt for a second, I'd like to pose like a little transition question.
Yep. Okay.
So Jalen Hurts was drafted to the Eagles. So obviously we've seen the last few years that the Eagles have gone to the playoffs without their star quarterback Carson Wentz. And they've had to rely on guys like Josh McCown, Nick Foles.
They're going to use him as a backup in the
and stuff like that. So do you think, just on overall thoughts about Jalen Hurts, because I was watching him with Pat, and I'm like, why? Like, I don't get it. Like, why are they drafting Jalen Hurts?
There's a piece of me that thinks that maybe Wentz is on his way out. Maybe they're sick of his injuries.
No, I don't think so.
Maybe they're a little bit sick of his injuries.
Just a backup plan. I think it was just a backup plan.
I think
this guy gets injured every season.
I think it's like a Taysom Hill type thing, like a kind of gadget player.
He makes 6 games. I was watching today. He missed 6 games in 2017. I think 7 or 8 in 2018, just because of injuries.
And he missed the entire season one year. The guy is injury prone. There's no, going around it.
If he goes down for good, they need a backup that they can count on, I think is the bottom line.
And look, I mean, I think it's kind of ironic because Jalen Hurts stepped in for a quarterback. Maybe, I don't know who it was, but some quarterback was playing really bad or got injured and got taken out. Jalen Hurts stepped in and then won the championship because of it. Maybe something that happens with the Eagles. But then again.
So you're thinking more kind of like a Nick Foles type thing?
Yeah, that's my initial thought. I just don't think that right now, at this point in time, Carson Wentz is expendable. He's a very talented quarterback when he's on the field, dude, when he has receivers to throw to. And I think they spent a pick on Jalen Reagor in the first round. I think they're trying to get Wentz, if he can stay healthy, to have some really talented receivers to throw the ball to.
But if not, they have an insurance plan.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So my winner was Vikings. So they had 15 total picks. Let's just go through them day by day. So they pretty much, why I was happy with this, they filled all the holes they needed to within the first few rounds. So day 1. So they drafted Justin Jefferson with that 22nd pick from the Bills to recuperate from that loss of Diggs. Yep. They also grabbed cornerback Jeff Gladney out of TCU, the 31st overall. And they'll more than likely or definitely both be starters on this team for their rookie season. And that was just day 1. So day 2, they really beefed up that cornerback spot. They got Cameron Dantzler out of Mississippi State. They also drafted Ezra Cleveland for a promising left tackle replacement for an aging Riley Reid. I love this pick for them. He ran a 4.9 at the combine. He's like 311 pounds. It's no easy task. I also think Kubiak is going to do an amazing job developing this guy. He kind of weird fact, he also blocked for their new running back that just got, Alexander Madison, when they were at Boise State together. I think Madison's going to is super happy about that. Day 3, so obviously not as strong as the first few days. You're getting into the last rounds of the draft, but they did get a great linebacker in Troy Dye, 132nd overall. That was super important.
He got ranked as an A for that.
Yep. They also got defensive end Kenny Willix out of Michigan State super late. I think it was in like the 220s, like 225, 226.
225.
As well as a couple other safeties and tackles. I think this was a really great draft for this Vikings team. And with the exception of maybe another wide receiver, this team is going to be able to seriously compete this year.
What do you mean with the exception of another wide receiver?
If they were to go out and get another wide receiver, that's kind of the only spot.
Dude, I mean, they got Thielen in this new Jefferson guy.
All right, and let's say Jefferson doesn't pan out.
Absolutely.
So then what? You just have him, and you have some good tight ends. You have some promising tight ends, but you're going to be in the same situation that the Patriots are in, with some maybe promising tight ends, and then Edelman,
I wouldn't be surprised if they were in the market for, another wide receiver just as another weapon for them to use.
Any possible suspects?
I don't really know. I haven't looked too much into it. I don't also know what wide receivers on the trade block right now. Who's looking to get rid of somebody?
Alshon Jeffrey for the Eagles.
And I know it was rumored that he's not going anywhere right now. Odell.
Yeah, Odell is on. I don't think he's not on the trade block though. They're just exploring trades with him, and
correct.
I don't see him in a Vikings uniform. He was rumored to be in a trade going to the Vikings, but
I don't see that either. I heard an NFC North rumor. I don't see how he fits very well into that organization, honestly.
Yeah.
But loser of the draft. Who wants it?
I'll take it.
Mike, go for
it. My biggest loser, Pat, you're not allowed to say a word, okay? Just mute your mic or something, all right? Okay. So I have the Green Bay Packers. So
Michael, I could not agree more.
That is ridiculous.
You are a schemy little Jordan Love. Oh, he was like the best pick. Shut up, Mike.
Look, they had, in my opinion, one of, if not the best picks of the draft in Jordan Love. I still stand by that. I'm not going to change that.
Don't.
Yet they still failed. They still had an awful draft. Their best position last year was running back, right? Their worst position last year was wide receiver. So what do they do in the draft? They draft a running back in the second round, their best position, and don't draft a wide receiver. Doesn't make any sense to me. And look, I know the running back they drafted, A.J. Dillon. Know a lot about the guy. I'm a huge BC fan.
BC, yeah.
A.J. Dillon is extremely injury riddled, and the guy can't stay healthy for the life of him. So I don't think that pick's going to pan out at all.
And they have Jones.
Thoughts about it?
No, how about Jamal Williams, too?
Yeah.
They have two running backs. They don't need to get A.J. Dillon. I don't understand that pick at all. It was just way too high for a second rounder.
I'm looking at these picks. I'm kind of with you, Mike. These are really.
So they could have had him in the fourth round, in my opinion. Dillon was supposed to go anywhere from the third to fifth, but I looked at some of the teams drafting in the third. There was no one out there looking for a running back. Figuring out the Patriots had like 4 third-round picks at one point. They took up an eighth of the third round. They weren't looking for a running back. So, look, Rodgers cries and moans all the time about, wide receiver, any weapons in general. And instead of getting one in the second round when they could have, they didn't. And they got a position that they were already stacked on. Or how about get a stud linebacker? I've said it before. They lost Blake Martinez, who led the league in tackles last year. They lost him, and they did nothing to kind of replenish that position except for drafting a linebacker really late in the round, in the seventh round. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Look, in the third round, they got a guy named Josiah DeGuara. Know nothing about the guy, but he's a tight end who was projected to go in the fifth round. He went in the third. I mean, it's just reaching on picks. It doesn't make any sense to me. I have no notes on this. I'm just looking at the draft picks they had. It doesn't make any sense, dude. They picked 3 linemen that could have easily gone undrafted, but they took them in the 6th round. Doesn't make any sense to me. They just reached, and they didn't get Rodgers a lot of help. And overall, they didn't give him any help to get him a deep playoff run. Just the whole thing just doesn't make any sense to me, because it's not like you're a place where you're kind of like, what's the bottom of the NFL team? How about not kind of like the Redskins in a way? I mean, they're not competing, but they're not like at the absolute bottom. They're second, but like
I would say a team like the Panthers would be the best comparison.
Yeah, kind of like a Panthers type. Maybe the Giants, like a team of that regard who just they're not at the bottom, but they're not at the top. If they were to make some of these picks, I'd get it because some of these guys could be promising in years to come. They're project picks.
And you know what?
When you're the Packers,
those
last the NFC Championship, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Those last picks in the 7th round, 5th, 6th, 7th round, is where you're supposed to fill in those little gaps, those like little things that you might want to try to fill up.
They didn't even fill in the biggest gap, which is the wide receiver core.
Why would they do that in the 5th, 6th, or 7th round?
Not wide receiver core. I'm saying that 5th, 6th, 7th round is, of course, you need to address the most important things in the early rounds, and you can kind of file it down in the later rounds. Do you see what I'm saying?
I agree with you. But, Neil, I
same reason why the Vikings took defenders later in the rounds. That wasn't like their highest priority, but it was still kind of a team need.
But they lost a lot of guys in free agency on defense, which is why I disagree with that point.
A ton of guys on defense.
They needed to go out in the draft and pick defenders early, which is why I agree with the pick of Justin Jefferson, even because they don't have a good wide receiver, lost Stephon Diggs, and Jeff Gladney. But in those 2nd, 3rd, and 4th rounds, I don't understand why they didn't pick a lot more defensive pieces than they did. And that's just my opinion. But defensive pieces earlier in the draft, like 3rd and 4th round instead of like 6 and 7, And I disagree with your point saying about how you can plug up those big holes in the 5th, 6th, and 7th round. Those are project picks. Those are rando guys who might not even make the roster. Those are practice squad guys.
And I didn't make the argument that you can do that. I'm just saying that Pat was saying like, the 5th and 6th and 7th round are meant to fill the little holes. They didn't even fill the biggest hole, which is their wide receiver core.
I see your point. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm definitely with that. All right, I want to get into mine.
Go for it.
This loser of the draft would be the absolute dumpster fire of the Houston Texans draft. The Houston Texans, honestly, may have had one of the worst drafts ever. Just so awful.
Worst. Hold on. The Houston Texans may have had one of the worst.
Maybe it was a stretch. Maybe exactly.
He was hyperbolizing.
Yeah, dude, they had a total of 5 picks.
Not a first.
Okay, so hold on. So what they do with the picks now? That's what matters.
They got a defensive tackle, a linebacker, an offensive tackle, a defensive back, and a wide receiver. And I want to get into some of those. Okay, in my opinion, Bill O'Brien has screwed this organization. Period. Paragraph. He has traded away every single pick and left this team with 5. The first being number 40.
Not as bad as 5, but 4.
And they selected and they selected Ross Blacklock. I do not
TCU?
like it.
TCU?
Okay? Yes. And I think if you lose DeAndre Hopkins in free agency, the first move needs to be to replace him. I don't see any other move. He's, like Neil said, he's at a TCU, and he struggled with injury since 2018 with a torn ACL. That is not an injury that you mess with. I don't know what O'Brien was thinking, and I think they kept picking pieces for the defense. While I think offense needs to be your main concern right now, I'm not saying that the Texans defense is amazing because they're not what they used to be. But I think the offense needs to be the main concern, and they kept picking defensive pieces. But not replacing an offensive weapon with another offensive weapon makes no sense to me. It's so idiotic. They waited until the 171st pick and selected Isaiah. They selected Isaiah Cutler, a receiver out of URI. He attended the University of Rhode Island, and when I put him next to Brandon Cooks, the deep threat, his notes include struggling with route running. It's not particularly what I want to be hearing. When we already have a deep threat, it makes me cringe.
More particularly what Deshaun Watson wants to be hearing.
Exactly. Due to O'Brien being such an idiot and him trading away most of their trades, I give this dumpster fire of a draft a C-. Done.
All right, so I had the same.
No. Michael, I want to hear you. You're being quiet.
Yeah, but you're being very quiet. That means the wheels are spinning.
That's right.
Sense it. The wheels are spinning up there.
Look, I don't think that Deshaun Watson is going to be a Texan next year.
I don't think so either.
I don't think he's going to be a Texan next year. And
timeout. Furthermore, I think that's even more important. Who is arguing against the Packers picking Love?
I'm arguing against the Packers picking Love.
Okay. Given that fact that we've seen Rivers Brady, and now potentially Watson just dipping, even more so, if Rodgers is going to want out, even though he's been here for, like, God knows how many years.
Point. I'm not even
necessarily. Who knows if he dips to some rando team next year?
But Neil, no. If you know anything about Rodgers and the interviews he's had, he said that he wants to end up a Packer for his life.
A good
Brady
point.
Brady never said that. Brady never said. No, he did not. Brady has never said that. Brady's never said that. Rivers has never said that.
I think it was kind of implied in New England.
How was it implied? Did he ever come out and say it?
Okay.
He said he loved New England. He never said, I want to spend my entire career here.
I suppose, but 6 years
Dude, like
ago,
when you're
little, Michael, did you ever think that Brady would go to another?
6 years ago, I was 10 years old and didn't know anybody on the Pats roster, dude. It's a different time, Neil.
All right, I suppose.
No.
All right, continue with.
I'm not going to argue against Pat because I argue against him enough, and I'm getting tired of it. So I'm just going to – look, I don't think Watson's going to be a Texan next year, and I think the Texans are in a transition period where they're like, we don't know what to do. And given how they don't have a lot of money, they didn't have a lot of draft capital. What do you do?
Very little draft capital.
Dude, Bill O'Brien is in a tough situation.
Dude, but he put himself in that situation.
Yes, by trading Hopkins away, I agree. But if you look at some of the reports, Hopkins said, and I quote, I never had a relationship with Bill O'Brien. If you're in that relationship, you leave.
Yeah, or lack
you know,
thereof.
you get rid of him. And then, look, is he past his prime and washed up?
But they
got David Johnson. So are they going to go to a run-heavy team, kind of like the Patriots are going to transition to in this year?
And dude, if they were going with a run, if they were going with a run-heavy team, why wouldn't they select a ton of offensive linemen?
Yes,
they selected one in the fourth round.
Not even that. I'm just saying they don't have a good offensive line as is.
Right.
And it's like bottom of the NFL. So
and if they really want, and I agree with you. And if they really wanted to capitalize on that, they would have drafted 2-3 offensive linemen. They drafted one, Charlie Heck, out of the fourth round out of North Carolina.
It's just very hard to see their plan here because, like, what are they? I think guess what everyone's thinking, like, while watching the draft and watching the Texans, you're like, what is their, like, strategy here?
I have no idea, and I'm excited to see it play out, to say the least.
Me too.
So my loser, Saints. So they only had 4 picks. Sean Payton traded up for, I think, 2 of those picks. They took Cesar Ruiz first overall. And don't get me wrong, he's a talented player. I'm not seeing the need for an offensive lineman on this team right now. And so he did take another linebacker, which obviously ended up helping them.
Yep.
I was just really I want to hear your thoughts on this. I was really confused when they took a quarterback in the 7th round. Tommy Stevens.
No. I disagree. I'm gonna raise your point.
Okay.
News. Jameis Winston signs.
That's my point. That's why I'm confused.
Neil, I think the problem is that you're looking too heavily on like 6th and 7th round picks. Some of those picks don't even make the roster. Those are like picks that you pick of guys who might be like project players and like camp stars.
Why even cross your mind with?
Because Drew Brees is like 39 years old and he's one major injury away from retirement. It makes sense. And then you didn't know that Jameis Winston was going to be like available to get picked up.
Dude, they're gonna tool with him, dude. They're gonna
Sean Payton had an idea that, all right, I'm gonna do this one day and then maybe pick up Winston. Like, it wasn't just that.
I agree with that, but I'm just saying, like, I think you're reading too much into it. What you should be reading into is the Jameis Winston pickup, which I do want to get on a topic about. I don't get it, dude. I don't get it.
Me neither. I honestly think
if it's anywhere north of $10 million, I am perplexed by that. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I think it's more beneficial for him, honestly, than the team itself, because he's learning under one of the best coaches of all time and one of the best quarterbacks of all time.
So now, Sean Payton's not one of the best coaches of all time.
He's up there, especially with Breeze. You don't think he's a great coach?
That's more my point.
There's difference between a great coach.
Maybe I pulled a Pat and exaggerate a little bit. He's a great coach, and Breeze is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. That you cannot dispute.
Well, yeah, but you said Payton. Breeze is different.
As I said, that's why I took it back and I said,
look, I think that if you're Winston,
I think it'll be good for Winston, and especially if he's only there for 1 year, maybe they'll keep, maybe they won't. If he gets out, I think he's a better quarterback than when he went in.
I think so. I think he's a better quarterback. I just don't think that it was a good decision to kind of sign him. I mean, there are other weaknesses on your team. Like Neil said, they didn't address the linebacker position at all. They drafted one rando guy.
They drafted him from Wisconsin.
In what round?
Third round. Third.
Oh, third round. Okay, so they addressed it a little, but still, they lost 2 linebackers in free agency. 2 like good ones, Demario Davis and.
And you know what? They need to be, and I honestly, I think they need to be addressing that almost like laser. They had 4 picks and were on the offense. I don't think that's the smartest move. Thoughts about Adam Trotman out of Dayton as a. All right, but so again, I think the Saints draft was super mediocre. But a weird pick was Adam Trotman out of Dayton. What do we think about that?
I liked him on the Patriots. I would have really liked him to be a Patriot because I'm watching the draft and I'm seeing his name pop up on like Mel Kiper's best available for 20 straight picks, and it kept on falling and falling and falling. I'm like, oh well, Patriots need a tight end, and this is before they picked either of the 2. Mm-hmm. I wish they took him, and the Saints need a tight end, so it makes sense.
Do they?
I mean, and the guy's not absurdly. I think he ran like, I don't know, 4.7, 4.8 at the combine. It wasn't awesome.
Yeah, but not everything's about how fast they are. Sometimes
that's true, but it definitely helps.
Dude, you can put Usain Bolt in a football uniform. It doesn't make him the greatest player of all time.
I suppose.
I don't know. I just think, like, what about Jared Cook? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
But he's also getting really old, dude.
He's getting older. Yeah. He's what, 32, 33? He's getting older. So, I mean, it wasn't a terrible pick by Sean Payton. But I do think that the Saints were a big loser in this draft, definitely.
Yeah. But then again, I don't think they had a whole lot to work with. They only had like 4 picks or something, like 4.
Yeah, and I don't think this was, as opposed to some other teams, this wasn't a draft where they really needed a ton. Obviously, they needed help in a ton of circumstances, but.
So then how could you say they're the biggest loser in the draft?
Positions, but I just don't think they had, like, as a Saints fan, I'm just not, like, super hyped about the way this draft turned out. They didn't.
Yeah, but dude, as a Saints fan, you're not going into the draft needing a whole lot. And with only 4 picks, I personally don't think you can say they're the biggest loser, dude. They only had 4 picks.
Yeah, but I think you have to look at it as the biggest loser, not the biggest loser like just like a bad like team, just the biggest loser like in the draft. I know. I agree with Neil. I don't think they addressed their main things.
But they didn't have a first-round pick. And no linebacker jumped at them in the second round, so they went and picked one in the third round. Linebacker is one of their biggest needs. I think they assessed it relatively okay. I don't think they're a biggest loser at all. They only had 4 picks, remember, and a few of them were coming in later rounds. I think they did fine.
Boys, awesome pod. Click it up. Let's go. I'm Neil.
I'm Pat.
I'm Michael.
We'll see you next week. Let's go.
Oh, all right.